use of some scoring guidelines and rubrics associated with that. The grade level teachers and coaches will again analyze that data, and obviously that information helps drive future instructional decisions, our intervention groups, and obviously any skill deficits and or acceleration opportunities our students need. The final thing I would share tonight is, again, connected a little bit to what I shared last year. We're in the process of coming to conclusion with the caring and sharing drive. It's in full swing, but we're coming closer to the end phase of that. I'll share out, it's an increased number from last year. We're going to be assisting 62 Willistown area school district families and over 150 children who are facing challenging financial times during this holiday season. So part of that group is working to support each family in the need of a holiday meal, and also providing them with a $25 gift card that goes to one of the local grocery store Aldi's there in Hanover, so or any Aldi's, but we have in Hanover. So we're excited about that, and again, that continuing service from our students in K-12, servicing their community and the needs that are associated with their school district and their families. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. You just mentioned that you were testing, right? Correct, in ACEs. Is that an in-house thing that you're doing yourself?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're testing the students, or are both the students and the staff?
Well, obviously, anytime you're testing the students and you're gaining results as to how they're performing, that also would have a reflection on the teacher and their instruction throughout the school year.
And so when you test the children, you're trying to, or the students, I say, I'm sorry, students. Sorry, I'm used to daycare. Okay. I apologize. When you're testing the students, you're actually looking for a way to make them function better, or?
Well, it's to evaluate where, because at the elementary and like the secondary level, they run on quarters, we run on trimesters.
Okay.
So it gives us an opportunity to see after the first 60 days of school, where are students at, and all students take that same assessment. And it's not an assessment like a PSSA, where it's a much shorter variation of that to gain some insight on what we're doing instructionally and where students at. And then connecting that, as Courtney says, it's one data point that we're using in connection with several data points that are associated with what we're doing.
Now, is this your first year of doing that?
No.
Okay, so you haven't.
That's been an ongoing practice.
And has it worked in the past?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is giving us feedback, because, for example, there's multi-steps to, for example, a math problem. It's not necessarily the students are doing 10 math problems and then assessing. Students get one math problem, but it's a multi-step problem, and has different layers to it. And again, it's assessing based on that rubric and criteria how well that student can do it and what parts of that problem that they can do.
Very good. That's great. I'm glad to hear it. I always like to say, start at the bottom.
Sure.
Good foundation sure makes a better building. When you're dealing with the students, you have them first.
Sure, yeah.
So that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Thank you, Mr. Moran.
Any other questions from Mr. Moran? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Bree. Thank you, parents, for raising such good people.
Should have put that disclaimer out. Yeah, I should have thought. I think my mom said this.
That's okay.
I think my mom all the way in West Virginia. I'll send her.
We're going to move on. The Thunderbolt Foundation report. Ms. Becker has a report because she's busy handing out shoes. So
That's tonight.
That's tonight.
Yeah, it's part of caring and sharing.
Yes.
So we're at the public comment section. We now recognize members of the public who have signed up to provide comment as stipulated in policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium, state your name, confirm you're a resident or taxpayer in the district, and topic of discussion for the record. Please direct your comments to the board as a whole, not an individual. We ask you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be interrupted, revoked, or a recess of the meeting may be called by the chair if the speaker does not observe reasonable decorum and orderly conduct. Thank you. Mr. Jeremy Resper is up first.
administration. I come here tonight from the Littlestown Elementary Football Association. Our season officially wrapped up last month when we had our end of year banquet. We had around 500 parents and athletes over at Saves for a nice, awesome chicken dinner with some awards and everything else. But I wanted to come here tonight to express our gratitude to the superintendent, to you, the board, the administration, the athletic department, Victor Trone and his staff, and finally to Coach Biddle and his staff. Without all of your help and support throughout the season, we wouldn't have had a great year that we did again. And I know I've said it before, but our youth football organization is one of very few that get the support of their own school district. So again, from the board to you, we thank you all. And on a side note, we are definitely going to miss Cindy Staub from the athletic department, because dealing with her from years ago in baseball and football, she was always great for everybody in the organization. So she's definitely sadly missed. While the LIFA board's primary goal is focusing on the kids to provide a fun and educational environment for the boys and girls of Littlestown, where they can learn about football and cheerleading, our one town, one team mindset has again this year led our organization to help out the varsity football and varsity cheerleading programs by purchasing some needed items. And just last week, we've even decided to help sponsor two of the upcoming cheerleading competitions that they're going to. We do things like this as investment, as our youth will one day be part of the school program. So it's just making us stronger as it goes. Even though we are an athletic-centered organization, we're also focused on the students and community, because let's face it, without them, there would be no youth sports. The LIFA board wanted to find some way that we could impact the students on and off the field with an emphasis on education and community. So with that being said, I'm pleased to announce that I have a check tonight to give to Mr. Moran in the amount of $500 for the Caring and Sharing Fund. And then I also have a check I was going to give to Mrs. Becker tonight, but she's not here, in the amount of $1,500 to go to the Thunderbolt Foundation to be used specifically for something that's going to impact our student athletes educational-wise. Because we're here to not only work, promote and go with sports, like I said, but we're also here to promote the student athletes, because they're the student first, athlete second. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce, can you take a picture of you getting a check for those from Jeremy? Peanut got her to the right and left over here. Susan Johnson is up next. And thank you, Joe.
Tonight I'd like to also recognize the Littlestown Youth Basketball, particularly the girls basketball has made a great impact with what has come up into the junior high basketball program. They've gotten off to an amazing start, and I can see great things happening in the future as they progress into the high school. I've also seen some great things happening this weekend with the wrestling tournament, so that wasn't mentioned. I did want to point that out. And as the holiday season continues, I look forward to hearing one of our MAM students of the month and the rest of our performers this Wednesday at the MAM's winter concert. And then of course we have ACES and the high school doing their winter concerts next week. So as we get ready for the holidays, there's always some interesting and fun events to participate in. But tonight, I didn't say my name, is Suzanne Johnson. As everyone knows, I'm a district parent, resident, taxpayer, and voter. And again, I'm going to express my concern about the brash disregard that that you as LASD officials have shown for open government laws. Despite the numerous violations that we've experienced this year, all but one board member voted last week to keep the same board leadership, which is very concerning. Last week, I reiterated the same concern that I shared a few months ago, about officials wanting to celebrate right to know law appeal findings as successful because there were no records to provide as a result of deleting records. It's ironic that the board will vote on the public records and data governance, storage, and security policies tonight when you delete records, so there isn't anything to give when a right to know law request is submitted. Regarding emails, last month the board president indicated that Stockton leaders, solicitors, have advised school board members to, quote, always delete them from the top, then you don't have anything to give anybody. According to the PA Office of Open Records FAQs, quote, improperly deleting or destroying agency records before or after a right to know law request has been filed could result in a bad faith finding by a court or in criminal charges where appropriate. I haven't gotten a response to my concerns and questions, including the one I asked last week about what is the backup and recovery plan for emails to protect against unintentional or intentional data loss that results from things such as deleting emails. Now that the officials have had a chance to get on the same page, perhaps tonight we'll hear how they want to spin a response to this latest controversy that has implications not only for our district, but for other school boards throughout the region represented by the same legal firm. After last week's meeting, I walked out in the hallway and found that the board vice president and solicitor were having a discussion in front of another board member's spouse. When they saw me, the discussion abruptly ended, leading me to logically deduce that the conversation was probably about the legal concerns I had raised during my public comments. In my opinion, it isn't a win for voters and taxpayers if the standard operating practice is to delete records in order to avoid disclosure. Again, I'll reiterate, those that have nothing to hide, hide nothing. Now I'll turn to finance concerns. Last month, the superintendent said he anticipated our district's portion of the ACTI building project will be $10 million over 20 years, and thus expects to raise taxes 1% a year for 3 years in order to build up to the $500,000 per year that will be necessary to cover that investment. Yet all but one board member voted to transfer nearly all of the budget surplus to the capital projects reserve instead of the ACTI investment fund in order to reduce future tax burdens. When looking at each of these spending measures, keep in mind that for each $500,000 you spend on capital projects, that's the equivalent of one annual ACTI building project payment. After all, but that one board member approved spending over $500,000 on the baseball and softball fields last month, tonight you'll be voting on spending another $3.4 million on facility projects that weren't included in the middle school and high school or the ACES and Rolling Acres consolidation projects. Are each of these additional capital projects being voted on tonight worth nearly 7 years of ACTI investment that could have been funded by money already collected instead of new tax revenue? I will remind you that the district voters asked for change at the polls last year and instead are seeing significant spending and transparency concerns. Next year, 5 positions will be on the ballot. 3 of you that are completing terms for people that resigned and 2 that are completing full terms. I pray voters are better informed and elect people that will actually bring positive change to improve fiscal responsibility, increase transparency, and improve student outcomes in our district. Thank you.
Okay. On to, I need a motion on the floor to approve the regular board meeting minutes of the meeting of November 18th, 2024.
So moved, Nick Lowell.
Second, Janelle Ressler.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the curriculum, co-curriculum, and policy meeting of November 26th, 2024.
So moved. Steve Yerger.
Second, Nick Lowell.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion on the floor to approve finance, property, and supply on November 26th, 2024.
So moved, Nick Lowell.
Seconded by Dwayne Sullivan.
Second. Do I have any comment? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need approval for the motion to approve the minutes for the reorganization meeting of November 2nd, 2024.
So moved, Dwayne Sullivan. Whoops, sorry.
Well, you can second it.
You can second.
Second.
Mary Brennan seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. Carry none. I need a motion to approve the minutes for the work session of December 2nd, 2024.
So moved, Nick Lowell.
Second,
Steve
Janelle
Yerger.
Ressler.
sorry.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, what do we got?
First off, no, I just want to thank Carrie for the one thing she changed and put the solicitor as attending the meeting.
Okay.
And the only other thing I want to say is, I did what I was asked to do. By Carl, I emailed to you. I'm going to say, just for my purposes, I'm not going to approve these minutes because I think that that should have been put in there too, along right below you. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I think this, we're going to run into a problem. I understand reaching out to you is the best way. I get it, and I did. But I just don't agree with the decision, if you don't mind, so.
Wait, you're saying because what you emailed isn't in there?
No. The discussion I had after I talked to Carrie and acknowledged she was the right to know officer, we then went to Eric. He was the storage.
Okay.
Dr. Naylor, I apologize. I harbor the doctors, especially unless I'm going to the doctor. I was talking, and he acknowledged that he stores the data, but that wasn't put in the minutes. And so I wrote to Carrie saying, hey, should we put that in there? Because you're stated in there as right to know officer, and he's not stated in there as the person that archives it, as you said, archives it. That was my point.
But my statement was that the policy we were discussing has Eric listed, Dr. listed as the person that covers all of that, and that was part of the discussion that was already set.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I agree with
But
that.
yeah, I mean,
It
if you
wasn't an
guys want me to
official-
elaborate.
It's
further,
not a big
sorry.
deal.
This
I
isn't
thought-
a transcription, this is a minute, this is a quick snapshot.
Okay.
I just thought it would just
Okay.
cement it, but that's fine.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Steve, you're up.
Okay, under Finance, Property and Supply Committee report, does anyone have any items they wish to pull and voted on separately?
A, C,
I just want to pull B so we can kind of get on this order. Oh, we can do it in the discussion.
you can
All right,
do it.
okay, all right, we're not pulling it then.
You might as well, because it's only the three anyway, so technically you're gonna pull them anyway. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
All right. In the form of a motion, recommend approval of item A.
I have a motion on the floor to approve recommending public school facility grant projects. Do I have a second?
Second, Janelle Ressler.
Okay. Discussion.
Is anybody else good? I want to go. My concerns with this are the same concerns I had when we moved to 3.2 million. I think that we're going too far on this project. Originally, because I watched very carefully, it was supposed to be a 75-25, 75 state, 25 Littlestown district. It now turns out it's 1585 by Tom's admission in a meeting. That to me seems a bit pricey for the district right now, considering we do have issues with I would say, retaining the money for ACTI without raising taxes. I would like to have seen some of this money go towards that instead of the inevitable thing I fear is going to come this coming June. But that didn't happen. So for that reason, I'm a no vote on this, not because we don't need the windows, not because we don't need the air conditioning, just because I think we went a little further. My calculations were if we had $500,000 towards the windows and the air conditioning, we probably would be around $620,000 from the district if we only did that, but we're going a lot further with the pneumatics and stuff like that. So for me, it's a no-go for that reason.
All of it is windows and air conditioning in HVAC. That's what the whole subject is.
No, it's not. You're adding the pneumatics in there.
Pneumatics is air conditioning.
Well, I mean, that was an original thing, though. I mean, if you're getting $500,000, if you're getting 15% of the money and we're spending 85%.
It's better than spending 100%.
Well, okay, so if you're buying a new truck, if I give you $10, are you going to go buy it and give it to me? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, Nick. I mean, you probably should take a finance class because your mother's been helping you.
Well, you're not going to insult me.
Yes,
That's
hold
really
it.
the first.
Well, I'm not insulting you. Nobody's insulting you. I'm just making a statement.
Absolutely.
Mr.
That
Yeager,
wasn't
I mean,
an insult.
Mr. Sullivan, personal comments do not need to come out, period.
Oh, so we're not allowed to talk?
You're not allowed to insult
not allowed to
somebody,
talk.
you're
I'm
not
gonna
allowed to
write that
insult
down.
somebody.
We're not allowed to
You're
talk.
not allowed to insult
All
somebody.
right, no more transparency.
They do it all the
Write that
time.
down. No more,
No
Public
more
input
trans,
members.
yeah, you just said it. No more transparency.
no, you can have a discussion, but do not make it personal.
Well, he came in at the discussion.
You came in and you threw a personal comment in that was not relevant, had nothing to do with
It
any.
is relevant.
It has nothing to do,
You have to know
it
how to
has
do
nothing
finances.
to do with the business at hand.
It does.
What happens in his personal life has nothing to do with this school
You
district.
have to be,
No, it doesn't, because we can definitely bring things up that are happening in
have.
other people's lives that we don't need to bring up. So we just
Oh,
need to bring up
can we
anything
change the
that has to
policy
do with.
now, Carl? Because we had brought all stuff up on me.
No.
But we
haven't.
stopped it for everybody else.
No, we
Okay.
haven't, okay.
Yes, you have.
All right, no, we haven't, we're moving on.
That's all on
All those in
video.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries.
Recommend in the form of approval the following discussions on the anonymous donation.
I have a nomination, or a motion on the floor to approve an anonymous donation. Do I have a second?
Second, Nick Wolf.
Business friendly.
Jinx.
I have a first and I have a second.
Oh, we just want to thank the anonymous donor for their donation. It's always appreciated.
Thank you. And I think somebody knows exactly who, and do we send an anonymous note back?
I have spoken to the individual.
Okay, all right, and we appreciate it, thank you. Okay. All those, we have a first and a second, comments are all done. Do we have a vote of all those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. In the form of the motion, we have payment of invoices.
Okay.
General fund, factory fund, student activity, capital projects, and go bond checks. And light fund checks.
I have a motion on the floor to approve C, payment of invoices. Do I have a second?
Second, Nick Wolf.
Discussion,
I do have some discussion.
okay?
On the solicitor invoices, here's my issue. I went back and did research on the report outs by the superintendent, both superintendents, I should say, and I have compared it to the invoices. I have noticed that a lot of times there was no report out to the board. And another thing, we haven't gotten any solicitor reports since 9/5. None. None. And I noticed it was reviewed on one of the invoices, that's the reason why I brought it up, on 10/4, or 10/11. And it was changed, but we've never seen it. I've never seen October, November, or December's solicitor report. I know we had 9/5, that's all we've had. And maybe July. That's it.
Solicitor doesn't normally report out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is it that you're looking for?
I've never-
Well, they give us the report out, which is a more detailed report. It comes confidential. That's what was being sent to us. It was sent to us in July, it was sent to us September 5th.
I can certainly research that, Mr. Sullivan, and see what's happening, what reports are there, and find out and report back.
Thanks.
Well, I was on the board for 4 years and I never got a solicitor.
It changed when we did 012, because they don't want to put details in the bills. So they said instead we'll just send you a confidential solicitor report.
That's not true.
That is true. That is true, because even the lawyer, Chris Harris, told me he doesn't want details in the bill because he doesn't want it read.
Okay.
Dr. Hensel, thank you.
Our superintendent will look into it and we'll be back in touch with us. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying the bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, just want to note items D 1 through 7 is noted.
Under personnel, are there any items that need to be pulled and voted on separately?
Okay.
We should say something about Mr.
We always do.
Yes.
Yeah, A and B pull.
Is there still discussion on all these if we don't pull them? If we vote on all of them?
recommend approval of personnel items C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J.
There's a motion on the floor to approve C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. Do I have a second?
Second, Mary Brennan.
Is there any discussion on C, D, E, well, the listed ones that have been first?
I just want to say, I think it's awesome to see the, like, the students that recently graduated from our district coming back. Zach Ader and Cameron Minky are both recent graduates in the last few years. I think Cam just graduated. And coming back and giving back to the athletic program, I think is amazing and phenomenal. I love seeing the students do that.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, Dr. Menzel, I would like to ask you about the change in the volunteer recommendation,
Sure,
if you wouldn't mind.
sure. I think I've shared this a few meetings ago, but there seemed to be a little discrepancy between hiring practices. When we hire someone, that individual is vetted through a number of interviews, their research, they talk, we get a number of folks, and administration makes a recommendation to the board for their approval. In the past, volunteers would come through, and volunteers, all they needed to do was simply go fill out a form, and all of a sudden, Mrs. Golden has a number of volunteers showing up at Maple Avenue. Mr. Moran has a number of volunteers showing up in Alloway Creek and has no idea what they're there for. So the simple process change in this was to be able to put our principals back in charge of who comes in, make sure they're vetted so that when it comes to the board and the board can approve, if there are questions about those volunteers, those individuals can share their background, their information, and why those individuals are coming to volunteer. This is included in Mrs. Young as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. Now, what if they don't know them?
Their
What if
job
the
as
person doesn't have children in the district?
As I shared with the building principals and Mrs. Young, it is their job to be in charge of the building and the programs that they have. So if they don't know them, they know the teachers that the volunteers are coming for, and they work with those teachers to build an understanding of what's happening. I think just as I was a building principal for a number of years, I was always keyed in on who was coming in and why they were coming in, and I believe it is their responsibility to be in charge of their building.
So, if I went back to the volunteer thing, resubmitted, you're saying that I have to be pretty much, one of the principals have to say, yeah.
What I would say, Mr. Sullivan, is for the folks that are coming through the buildings, is the building principal's job, because they are not aware, the board is not aware of who those individuals are, so we need someone to recommend them. Board members are here every week or every meeting. Board members work with each other very intimately, and I would say that the board members know who the board members are, and there is no need for a building principal or athletic director to recommend a board member for volunteer status.
Oh. Okay. I was just wondering if that's what I have to go through. Be back on the list.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motions on the floor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Form of motion recommend approval of the resignation of Quinn Fosnut as the date administrator effective January 10th.
I have a motion on the floor to recommend the resignation of Quinn Fosnut, effective January 10th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second, Mary Brennan.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Nail, do you have anything to say or comment, or?
Gonna miss him, for sure. Quinn started here as a graduate of Penn State University through a contracted services, and we felt very highly on Quinn's performance and abilities. Brought him on board. I think he's been a Littlestown employee